as Anna was talking about the pillar related to the vocabularies, I am going to talk a little bit about pillar 2, which is related to developing a standardized data network and what that's going to look like specifically for OHDSI. All right, so at the symposium, you probably remember, and pretty much all of last year, Patrick was sharing this slide about how we might create an open science system with fail-safes built in. And you remember Martine's talk that he gave that went through each of these, and Patrick also shared a little bit about database diagnostics and what we were trying to do there. Because if you remember, we already had a little bit of these fail-safes implemented for cohort diagnostics and study diagnostics. They just hadn't been put together. But we had to build something for data diagnostics totally from scratch last year. And what we ended up doing was taking an aggregated set of statistics out of our much loved ACHILLES application. And we used that to try to assess data fitness for use given a specified clinical question. And what we came up with, this is out on the OHDSI GitHub. I don't have a version 1.0 released yet, but it is a pretty stable version as it is now. I'm going to add one other thing, but as it is now for the community, it's ready to go if you wanted to check it out. But really what it did was we were able to use this example, this hypertension example, and we were comparing lisinopril versus benazepril, and we had a few others for acute myocardial infarction. And this is the example, again, that Patrick gave us at the symposium. And really nicely, just with this simple package, if you look into it, all of my Hades colleagues are going to go, yeah, this is pretty straightforward. It's like one script. But with that one, like, relatively simple script, we were able to assess a network of 13 different databases, and this is the databases we have available in the J&J network, to try to understand what databases would be the best to use to answer this particular question. And there were a couple of different things. Certain databases failed because they didn't capture inpatient visits. Premier fails because it doesn't have enough longitudinal follow-up. But we found that 6 databases passed all data diagnostics. And this was just for that one simple question on the 13 databases in the J&J network. But thinking about pillar 2, we want to expand this to the OHDSI network. So given the specific question, what databases in the OHDSI network are most relevant and appropriate to use in order to generate the most relevant and reliable evidence? And really, I'm really excited about this goal because this is everything that we want to do in OHDSI. We want to generate the most reliable, relevant evidence in a timely manner. And the way we're going to do that is to understand what databases are in the OHDSI network, what types of data they contain, and what specific questions we can ask of them. So here's pillar 2. We want to increase the transparency and maturity of the OHDSI data network. And there's a few different solutions in there that Patrick highlighted. We want some sort of catalog to encourage network studies. And for me, very excited about this, to promote data quality practices. We want to generate some sort of concept prevalence data so we understand, again, kind of speaking to what Anna is talking about, the landscape of concepts that are available within the OHDSI network. But the biggest one, and I think the one that we can really start to attack right now, is to promote data diagnostics, but by having data partners share a limited subset of ACHILLES. And this is really, we're talking about data diagnostics, but these other 2 solutions here are all going to come from this sharing of this small subset of the ACHILLES analyses. Everything else will flow from there, in my opinion. So I'm going to try to give you a little demo of what this might look like. So big ups to Jenna for writing a Shiny app on top of the existing data diagnostics. And we're hoping that we're going to build this out a little bit, but as an example of what we might see if we had such a network in place. And we're asking some similar questions that Patrick shared with us at the symposium. So you can see we're looking at acute myocardial infarction, acute pancreatitis, and cough as outcomes. We have a couple different P's and C's here. So these are telmisartan and azilsartan, and you can see them down the line. And what this shows at a really nice high level is every database that would be beneficial or that we could actually study these questions in. And it just very quickly, you can see which databases you can use for which questions. And if you want to drill down, you could actually get into why certain databases failed. So this is a lot of information up here, but really what this is showing is for one analysis, which is actually the lisinopril versus benazepril example, you can see each individual database and all the different things we evaluated in that database related to this particular question. I'm actually going to drill into JMDC because it's a pretty good example. And I see some chatter about the word fail, but really I'm talking fail in relation to your particular question. In this case, we're looking at JMDC comparing benazepril and I think it was lisinopril. This is comparing benazepril and lisinopril, and you can see that we're estimating the maximum sample size at 469. And really, this is because of, you can see here, there's very few exposures of benazepril in JMDC. Now, JMDC is a Japanese claims data set, so it's very possible that this drug is just not used very often in Japan. But you can quickly see, oh, this would not be the right database for me to study benazepril. But say we switched to a different analysis, which is number 5, which is telmisartan versus azilsartan. Then you can see that the proportion, the actual minimum sample size goes up pretty drastically because there are enough comparator exposures in this database. So you could really just see how these different choices impact where one database would be valuable to study a particular question, like telmisartan versus azilsartan for AMI. That same database would not be great to study lisinopril versus benazepril. And this is really what we're trying to do very quickly. So instead of someone having to send me a study package where we run all of these things and we find that out at the very end, we find this out at the beginning. So we're not wasting your time, and we're also getting the most reliable, relevant evidence that we can of the databases in the network. And that's just a few of the pros. I'm very, very excited about this, as you can tell. So what our vision is, right now we have this R package that generates an Achilles subset and returns the results, and we can look at this Shiny app. But in the future, what I'm really thinking about, and what I've talked with some of the steering committee members about, is that what if we had a website where you can actually input all of these different values? What ages, what genders, what calendar time do you want? What's your T, your C, your O? And really just return for you very quickly all the different databases in the network that would meet your needs. Because then you can think about someone who wants to write a grant for a particular research question could come to this website and run it through and then find all the different databases in the OHDSI network and then go to you to say, hey, we have a grant that we're writing. Do you want to be included? You can think about how regulatory agencies might really value something like this so they can quickly find those databases that would meet their needs to answer their particular questions of interest as well. And there's just so many other things that I think this would be really valuable for. And there's many different pros. But what we need from you guys, and I'm hopeful that you guys will be willing to join us, we are having our first meeting to discuss how we might push this forward this Thursday, January 26th at 9:30. And really what I'm looking to do is think about how can we motivate the community to contribute? I think we have, we're not really focused on like the development here. I think what we're really focused on is how do we motivate the community to come together to meet this need and to meet this pillar. Yeah, Adam, very similar to the Eden catalog. I definitely agree with you there. I think Eden is a really great example of what can be done in this kind of space, and we'd love to learn from what Peter has done, and also I know Erica has a lot of experience here as well. But anybody who wants to come join us, please do so. We're going to be under the auspices of the Data Quality Working Group, and if you saw on Craig's earlier slide, there's a data quality dashboard meeting, as it was written, at 9:30 on this Thursday. So love to hear from everyone just to see how we can really, beat the bushes and do some grassroots campaigning here to get this together and really make this a reality.